Good morning, welcome to IOS. I am a part-time lecturer at IOS for Law. My name is, I am Advocate Jayashree. Now, we will have a small demo on the industrial and labor laws, which comprises from chapter 14 to chapter 20 in your CS paper for setting up of business and industrial and labor laws. Why should we read industrial and labor laws? Why should we read it is because of the rights guaranteed in our constitution, the Constitution of India. All of you must be knowing about the fundamental rights. We have been reading it right from the school days. So some of the articles which are there in the Constitution of India deals directly with the fundamental rights and also the rights in the workplace. Therefore, being a CS, and you will have to file your returns, your forms every time. So you should know you are generally responsible for the ongoing of the business, the various aspects of business rather. Like all the legal formalities will be handled by the CS and the LLB persons. So it is very important for you to know about the industrial and labor laws. Now what is covered in your syllabus, just to give you a hint, if you have not read the syllabus as yet, is the Industrial Disputes Act, Minimum Wages Act, Payment of Wages Act, Payment of Bonus, Payment of Gratuity, Sexual Harassment at Workplace. Then you have the social welfare legislations. See, there is nothing like social welfare legislations as a law as such. But you have social welfare legislations, all these, the Minimum Wages Act or the Payment of Wages and the Industrial Disputes Act as such, the various facilities given under the Industrial Disputes Act, all these come under the social welfare legislations. For example, today in the demo we will take up the Industrial Disputes Act. Industrial dispute. Why should you read about industrial dispute being a CS? That is because you should know how to handle everything in the company. Of course, the company may have factories, may not have factories, but industrial disputes does not necessarily mean that there should be a factory. Many of us have that misconception. When we say industrial dispute, we say, oh, I am working in a software company. I am going to get employed in a software company. Why should I talk about factories? Industrial disputes does not necessarily talk about factories. You have a Factories Act separately for that. Okay? So, what is an industrial dispute? Once you get to know what's an industrial dispute, you will automatically know why you should read Industrial Disputes Act in your CS. An industrial dispute means a dispute. Dispute means what? A quarrel, a fight, a problem, an issue between three categories of people. Who are the three categories of people? Number one, employer and employer. Okay? Two employers. Okay. Now when we say two employers, where will they be two employers? It is not two employers. It will be the bosses. Right? So between employer and employer. Number one, where there is a dispute. Number two, employer and workman. When we say workman, it is not necessarily those working in the factories. It also refers to employees. Okay. So third one, employees and employees, that is workmen and workmen. When there is a dispute, there is an issue or there is a fight between or among, say, two groups of workmen, they want, each of them want, of course difference of opinion is common everywhere. So suppose two groups or two people have different perspectives on an issue and therefore there is a quarrel, there is a dispute. Dispute is much more than a quarrel or a talking over an issue or something like that. Okay. So when there is a dispute between an employer and employer, employer and workman, either of these three, then the Industrial Disputes Act come into play. Okay. So whatever are the provisions given in the Industrial Disputes Act, that will be taken into consideration. Now, I was talking to you about social security legislations. I know I am jumping, but I just want to coordinate between the two. Social security legislations, Industrial Dispute Act is a very vast act. Okay? So, when we read the Industrial Dispute Act, you have the social welfare legislations in that, which pertains to factories, which pertains to companies. Now, all of you would have read or seen or whatever it is. In some of the companies you have very good facilities, like there's a medical facility, there's of course a cafeteria, then there is a room, a medical room, or there's a creche. There are so many things like that. In some of the companies we even have the gym and all those things, which is beyond what Industrial Disputes Act the facilities were considered, because at that time we did not have all that. But now you even have the gym and recreation facilities, a place for recreation and all those things, parties. So many things are going on nowadays. Okay, but still I am just telling you the basic which is covered under the Industrial Disputes Act. When it comes to social welfare legislation, what does social welfare legislation mean? It means looking after taking care of the welfare of the society. When we say society, we cannot look at the society at large, right? So under Industrial Disputes Act, those who are working for the industry, for the company or the factory or whatever, they are covered under the Industrial Disputes Act for various facilities. For example, you have the casual leave, you have the encashed leave, and then you have various types of compensations for various people suffering from disablement due to accidents or occupational disease. There are so many such things in the Industrial Disputes Act. Okay, it's a very vast act, very interesting, and you will get a lot of knowledge out of that. But this comes under the Industrial Disputes Act. Now there is something called the Standing Orders Act, Industrial Standing Orders Act, which also comes under your syllabus. Standing orders refers to the rules which are framed as per the Industrial Disputes Act. What does those rules deal with? It deals with who is the certifying authority for various industries, who is the person to whom we should approach in case of a dispute, right? For registering the complaint regarding some dispute, whom should we approach in case there is a problem, who will sit as a judge, not necessarily a judge, it will not be a judge but an authority. Okay, so who will be the authority who will take care, and who will be the authority who will be supervising the company whether it is running as per the industrial disputes or not. The various welfare facilities. Industrial disputes is very large, as I told you. It deals with welfare schemes also, welfare measures also, and also the what are considered to be disputes. When we say what are considered to be disputes, small fights and quarrels will not come under the term dispute. It should first of all relate to the work at hand, or it should relate to the facilities which are given by the company. Any dispute between two people, that is employer and employer, or employer and workman, or workman and workman, if the dispute is relating to the industry at hand, then it is known as an industrial dispute. Okay, it can even mean that, sometimes when we say layoff, what is a layoff? Layoff is a temporary closure of the company or the factory, right? So in case of layoff, the company cannot just like that say, come on, take your termination paper and go away. Okay, or in case of closure of the company, they cannot just say, it's okay, come on, now the company is closed, I am under a loss, I cannot do anything for you, please go away. This cannot happen. It can be raised before the labor tribunal. Okay, so this will come under this thing as Industrial Disputes Act. So when we ask for getting in the re-employment, as you call it, when we say re-employment, we need the employment once again in the same company, or the person has been suspended in not a correct fashion. See, there are various rules. If a person has to get terminated, then there should be an internal inquiry, right? So there are so many such provisions dealing with each and every aspect of the industry under the industrial disputes. What can be raised as an industrial dispute? Between whom? When it happens, between whom can it be called an industrial dispute? Whom should we approach? What are the welfare measures under the Industrial Disputes Act? There are so many such things under the Labour Laws. Payment of Wages Act, As all of you know, Minimum Wages Act, there is a Minimum Wages Act which has come into force because of the Payment of Wages Act. Payment of Wages Act says there should be so and so amount for each of the workers. Okay, so there are certain slabs and all those things. So when we say Payment of Wages Act, payment of wages is compulsory for any work, right? We don't do anything free of service, right? That is one thing. So minimum wages, when we say organized sector, unorganized sector, organized sector, it is very easy. We bargain, we say, see, the market rate is so much, so you pay me so much. That's how we talk. But when we go to the unorganized sector, how is the payment of wages there? What exactly happens in that? So there is something called the Minimum of Wages Act. Corresponding to Minimum Wages Act, you have the Equal Remuneration Act. Equal remuneration based on gender. Okay. Now equal remuneration is based on gender, but again, not just because it is based on the gender. If a male is doing a particular type of job and the female takes over the same job, then there should be equal remuneration. Usually earlier, now the situation has become better, of course. Earlier it was like when ladies went for work, though they used to do the same amount of work or double the amount of work, they were paid lesser because they were ladies. Now because of the Equal Remuneration Act, in some of the sectors the situation has improved. Okay, then you have the Payment of Bonus Act. Bonus is something which is over and above the salary which is paid or the wages which is paid, right? Then you have the Gratuity Act. Gratuity is a payment compensation which shows the gratitude of the company towards the workman. Basically, I am telling you all these things. So all these are covered under your syllabus, and we will be reading all these things in the paper Setting Up of Business and Industrial and Labour Laws. This part belongs to the Industrial and Labour Laws section. Okay, and this is a demo for that. Welcome to the class. We will read much more. Thank you.